If you've ever tried to change your life, your career, habits, your routines, your mindset, and it felt like you were constantly failing or falling back into your old ways, this is the video I wish I had years ago. Because it's not just about your willpower, it's not just about motivation, and it's not just about reading more books or downloading another app. It's about knowing how to pull the right levers at the right time to gain the ultimate leverage. These are what I call the 4 levers of change, and I'm going to show you how to use them to finally get traction in your life. To fully understand this, you first need to understand something I call the purpose paradox. If you haven't watched my video on that, I suggest you check it out after this video. But the quick overview of the purpose paradox is the idea that you need purpose to make real, lasting change. But you can't find your purpose because you're too stuck in the daily grind. The way to get unstuck, you have to make those same very changes that you can't sustain without purpose. And that's the paradox. You need purpose to change, but you first need to change to find purpose. This video is going to show you how to bridge the gap. Remember, you only need to create enough change in your life to gain enough clarity to find your purpose and figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish in your life. Here's a good way to visualize it. Let's say this is you, and here is where your truth and your purpose lies, which is your life's ultimate fuel source. Now, in between all of that is a whole lot of noise and barriers caused by phone addiction, poor diet and exercise, and maybe toxic relationships. Unfortunately, you can't currently see your purpose until you get past all those blockers. So you start to clear it away, perhaps unknowingly. First, maybe you start eating better by leveraging motivation, one of the 4 levers. Then you start exercising using discipline, another of the 4 levers. Maybe you start learning some new skills to level up your career by leveraging both motivation and discipline. You start to move forward and make progress. But right before you're on the other side of that noise, you slip up and fall back into your old ways. You never made it past those blockers, so you're unaware that something incredible exists just on the other side. The reason you constantly fall back into your old patterns is because you are leaning on just 2 of the 4 levers, motivation and discipline. The thing is, you have to leverage all 4 levers in order to get enough traction to get to the other side of all of those blockages and finally discover your truth. All right, so let's jump into it. Here are the 4 levers of change. The first lever is motivation. Everyone loves motivation. It feels amazing. It's what shows up at 11 p.m. when you're watching a David Goggins video, and you swear you're waking up at 5 a.m. to run 50 miles. And sometimes you do, for like a day. Motivation is a spike. It's unpredictable, it's emotional and reactive, but it is very useful to get you moving. It's like striking a match. So when motivation strikes, use it to start a new habit in conjunction with the other 3 levers. But never rely on motivation alone to make lasting change, because it won't. That brings us to lever number 2, which is discipline. Discipline is the lever everyone respects, but few train. Here's what most people get wrong. Discipline isn't just a mindset, it's like an actual muscle in that you can condition it to be stronger. There's actual neuroscience behind this. AMCC, this thing. It's the part of your brain linked to impulse control. And like a muscle, it strengthens with use. Dr. Andrew Huberman often refers to how it's actually larger people who practice more discipline more often. Check out this clip.
Doing hard things translates to an ability to do hard things, and probably translates, provided it doesn't kill you, to a longer life.
And you've explained that there's actually a part of your brain that grows.
So there's a brain area that most neuroscientists aren't aware of called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. A colleague of mine at Stanford, Joe Parvizi, he's a neurosurgeon. He's in there stimulating different brain areas, including anterior mid-cingulate cortex and areas near it, in human patients while they're awake, preparing them for neurosurgery for other reasons. Stimulates anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and what do all people who have their anterior mid-cingulate cortex report? They feel like there's something about to happen, something's kind of looming, a challenge, a storm, some will report it as a storm, or a physical challenge, but their overall sensation is one that they want to lean into it, they want to challenge it. Now, this area has subsequently been imaged in people who are successful dieters, it grows larger. In people that fail at a dieting or nutrition program, it gets smaller. People that embrace a new form of exercise, and here's the key point, that they don't want to do, this area gets bigger. People that are just doing things that they enjoy doing does not change in shape or size. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. The anterior midcingulate cortex is larger in volume in a group of people called superagers. Okay, that's a bit of a misnomer because it implies they age faster. They actually age more slowly as it relates to cognitive decline. The slope of cognitive decline is not as steep in these people, meaning they're holding on to cognitive abilities longer than other people into older age. And the universal quality among these superagers is not just a larger anterior midcingulate cortex, but that they challenge themselves to do things that are challenging and they kind of don't want to do or really don't want to do.
So the tactic here, train with micro-discipline over time to strengthen your discipline muscle, to develop grit. Don't start with 75 hard. Start with finishing your shower with 60 seconds of cold water. Start with making your bed every morning. Don't touch your phone for the first 15 minutes of each day. The point isn't the habit itself, it's that you do something hard, and more importantly, something you just don't want to do. So lean into that. Each rep builds discipline. It builds grit. It will increase the upper limit that you can leverage moving forward. Now, before I get into levers 3 and 4, I'm going to quickly introduce a concept I call the effort index, which ties into all of this. Every single lifestyle change you make has an associated amount of effort or energy required to both start and sustain that change. The good news is that the cost of each change starts to diminish with time. To help visualize this, imagine you wake up every day with 50 energy points that you can spend on habit or lifestyle changes. And this battery mostly replenishes daily. Now, that battery is currently made up of motivation and discipline. We'll say 30 of it is discipline and 20 of it is motivation. Now, let's say you decide to start a new diet program. Pretty radical change from what you're currently doing, so it costs 45 energy points. It's fairly high on the effort index. Each day while that change is still new has a continued cost of 45 points. But over time, it'll start to diminish. So at 90 days, it might only cost 14 points to sustain. In this example, let's say it's day 1 and you start strong. You continue to do well, but on day 4, your motivation dips by 10 points. Because, well, that's what motivation does, as we covered earlier. Here's the problem. The cost of your new diet is still 45 points, but since motivation has now dipped, you only have 40 points to spend, not the 50 you had before. And as such, you will fail at this diet. You simply can't afford the sustained cost of admission. This is when you slide back into your old ways and likely deem yourself a failure. You're not a failure, you simply don't know how to budget your energy yet. With that in mind, let's roll into lever 3, which is systems and structure. Structure reduces the effort required to start and sustain certain habits or lifestyle changes. We do this by trying to automate decisions to make the easier choice the desired one. Let's look at our diet example from earlier. Let's say on day 3, you were smart enough to start meal prepping or buying a meal delivery service that fit into the criteria of your diet. Now, when it's time to eat, it's easier to just grab the cooked meal that's ready to eat. It's even easier than ordering takeout. So it reduces the effort required to maintain the habit. So let's say the diet change, which was costing us 45 daily points to maintain, now drops to 35 because of the structure we built around this change in our lives. Now, on day 4, when your motivation tanks by 10 points, you can still afford the effort required to sustain your new diet. This is one of the most underutilized levers because it feels unsexy, but it's where high performers typically set themselves apart from the rest. So the tactic here is to reduce friction, automate consistency by leveraging systems you design to service you. All right, and now we roll into the final and perhaps the most powerful lever we have, and this one is tricky because it can either support you immensely or sabotage your efforts completely. The fourth lever is, if you guessed it, people. People are, again, one of the single, if not the most impactful things in your life, especially when it comes to a journey of change and discovery. Whether you realize it or not, you are always being shaped by the people around you. And that influence isn't always conscious. Let me show you what I mean.
To answer that question, we set up a hidden camera experiment to see if this woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beeps, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group.
So in that video, actors stand every time a beep sounds. The woman has no idea why, but she still joins in. Eventually, she becomes the example that new people copy. This is what happens when you surround yourself with people whose values and behaviors are out of alignment with your vision. But the good news is it works both ways. Want to become someone who lives differently? Surround yourself with people who've already normalized that path. Their energy, their habits, their perspective, they become your ultimate support. You can also leverage people in other ways in your journey. Use other people to help make or keep you motivated. In fact, I hope this video might be a source of inspiration for you. You can use people as a form of accountability to remain consistent on your changes. You can even literally delegate tasks to others as a form of leverage. This might be outsourcing meal planning to a nutritionist. You might even consider hiring a remote virtual assistant to take some work items off your plate, to give you more time for you and save more of your much needed energy. People are the ultimate leverage point if you know how to do it. And again, this can also be the largest energy drain. If people around you are toxic or not aligned with who you're trying to become, you may need to look at ways of changing that up, which isn't always easy, but almost always necessary. Okay, and those are the 4 levers of change. But let's put it all together and see how you might utilize this in your life. For motivation, think back to times you've been most motivated in life. What was true? Are there any reoccurring patterns you can write down? So for me, I can use that as a way to kickstart or continue with a new habit in my life if I start to feel a dip in motivation. Now, this will be different for everyone, so raise your awareness and write them down. You're building a bank of tactics you can use when you need an extra boost of motivation. For discipline, start working on training your discipline muscles. It's one of the most reliable levers you have, so slowly work on building it by committing to a few micro changes each day. Again, I recommend ending your showers with cold water. Even just 30 to 60 seconds of water on the coldest setting will work. It sucks, but that's the point. I've been doing this for years and I still don't want to, which is exactly why I keep doing it. Making your bed is another great one. It's fast and simple, but you may not want to do it, so do it. And for me, putting away dishes or throwing away little pieces of trash I walk by, you'll start to catch yourself trying to skip it, but you override that and just get it done. These seemingly little things will equate to more impactful areas of your life with time. For systems and structure, identify the key areas of change you're trying to make in your life and write down some ideas of ways you can streamline those changes. Do some research if you need to, but write it down. Then you can choose which ones resonate most with you whenever you go to implement change in your life. Look at it like you're a third party that is unrelated to the change. Just logically think about the friction points and identify ways to eliminate them. You're building tactics you can use when you go to make these changes in your life next time. Tactics that will drastically improve your likelihood of sticking with whatever it is you're trying to implement. And lastly, for people, surround yourself with people who are aligned with who you're becoming. This can be challenging to do, especially if it involves removing certain people from your life. So to start, just join a community of like-minded folks. It's a low-effort, high-impact action item so you can start making progress. In fact, I invite you to join this community. Together, we can support each other to become so much more. You can do that by joining our newsletter on our website, which I've linked in the description below, and by subscribing to this channel, as well as liking and commenting. Candidly, every one of those actions helps support me and this channel, and in turn, I'll be continuing to create as much free content as I can to help you on your journey. All right, well, that's it for this one. Make sure you check out my previous video on the purpose paradox. I'll link that down below. And check out my video that has a deep dive into the effort index if you want to learn more about how to build a sustainable budget to use as you roll out your changes on your journey. Catch you in the next one.